Thank you very much, my friend. We next go to Chairman Aderholt, but before you're recognized, it is your birthday. And so the newly established tradition, the Boehner birthday song will be rendered. This is your birthday song. It doesn't last too long. Hey, the gentleman's now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say that I'm usually not in appropriation committee meetings on my birthday, but looking back, I usually am in appropriation meetings on my birthday. So, but I will say this is the first time I've been in a full committee hearing on my birthday. So this is a little bit different day, but it's great to have Senator Lankford, Congressman McClintock, former director of OMB, Shalonda Young. Good to have all of y'all here today and for your testimony and your thoughts on this issue. I know this is an issue that every one of us have dealt with, whether you've been here in one term or whether you've been here many, many terms. Let me address the first issue or first question to Congressman McClintock. Of course, you're an authorizer, and here we are as on the appropriation side here in this committee. How do you see the relationship between authorizing and appropriations in the process? And as far as do you think there needs to be greater alignment between authorizers and appropriators? And what do you feel like could be changed to make that more easy to try to maybe avoid a shutdown?
Well, of course, I've always been very critical of the tendency of the House to continue to fund programs that are unauthorized. Our House rules allow a point of order, but those rules are always waived in the rule that brings the appropriation bills to the House. So, I mean, unauthorized appropriations are a big problem. And it's not the fault of this committee, it's the fault of authorizing committees that simply fail to look at the programs within their jurisdictions to determine which ones are efficient, which ones have become inefficient, which ones have become superannuated and need to be abolished. But within the budget process itself, there's a very sharp distinction. The Appropriations Committee controls the discretionary spending. The authorizing committees are supposed to control the mandatory spending. That's the reconciliation process. And that's the process that's really gotten fouled up. But one of the problems that we face on both sides, discretionary and mandatory, is, again, that impediment in the Senate that allows a minority, if it wishes, simply to block consideration of the appropriations bills that are sent over. That obviously thwarts the appropriations process, but again, it also puts pressure on the reconciliation process to be used not for comprehensive reform of our mandatory spending, but rather to chase whatever shiny object we can't get through the Senate. So I think that this reform, again, it's not a cure-all, it's not a substitute for political will, but it does remove one of the impediments that I think is keeping this process from working.
Thank you. Senator Lankford, of course, you've had the privilege to serve in both chambers, in the House and the Senate. How do you see the dynamics? Of course, Congressman McClintock just mentioned about the issue with a minority being able to keep a appropriation bill from coming to the floor. But how do you see the shutdown dynamics play out differently from your perspective in the House and now being in the Senate?
I think I was in the House 6 hours as a member when I heard for the first time the other party is the opposition, the Senate is the enemy.
Yep.
So that has not changed over the years in the process back and forth, and I get that dynamic. The two bodies do function very, very differently. As Representative DeLauro had mentioned before, appropriations is always bipartisan, always. When you go through the process on that, and that is true in the Senate as well. The Senate requires both sides to have to sit down and talk like grown-ups and figure out our differences and to be able to solve those. To be able to remove the requirement to have 60 on appropriations, which is the gist of this proposal on this, would pull away that requirement that we have bipartisan conversation in the Senate. It also would add into it in this particular structure, one of the things the senators hate. The House has the convenience of when you do a reconciliation bill of voting it, sending it over to the Senate. The Senate rules require a vote-a-rama. That is an unlimited amendment exercise where we're often in continuous voting for sometimes as short as 8 hours, most often 20 to 25 to 30 hours, continuous one amendment after another on unlimited subjects. You won't find very many senators that want to do another one of those. because they're painful, long political exercises that don't accomplish anything. This particular proposal would add yet another set of vote-a-ramas into the Senate rules, and that would be tough to get senators actually vote for. We're trying to get rid of that, not add another one.
Thank you. I think my time is up, so I'll yield back.
Chairman Robert Aderholt used a House Appropriations hearing to ask a question that has frustrated taxpayers for years. What needs to change so Congress can stop lurching from one government shutdown threat to the next? He first turned to Congressman McClintock, an authorizer. McClintock was blunt about two major problems. First, Congress keeps funding programs that have never been properly authorized. House rules theoretically allow members to block unauthorized spending, but those rules are routinely waived. He blamed authorizing committees for failing to review which programs still work and which should be eliminated. Second, McClintock pointed to the Senate. A minority in the Senate can simply block appropriations bills from even coming to the floor. That forces everything into last-minute crisis negotiations or into the reconciliation process, which was never designed to carry the entire budget. Senator James Lankford, who has served in both chambers, added his own perspective. He joked that the first thing he heard as a new House member was, "The other party is the opposition. The Senate is the enemy." He noted that appropriations work is traditionally bipartisan in both the House and Senate, but the 60-vote threshold in the Senate makes final passage extremely difficult. Lankford also warned that some reform proposals would make the process even more painful by adding more marathon vote-a-rama amendment sessions that senators already hate. The hearing laid bare a structural problem. The House can pass bills, the Senate can block them, and the result is repeated brinkmanship that leaves the country repeatedly on the edge of a shutdown.